Let's see. It's a little sound problem. Sorry. Still can't hear you. Sorry. I'll hear me now. I think you guys might be muted because I'm not picking up any sound. Let's see. You guys can hear me? All right. I can't hear you at all. My picture just got better. I heard something. Let's see. Something like comes through in bits and pieces. All right. Weird. Is your mic picking up? Like you see little green bars going when you talk? There's a mute button in the top center. If you hit the screen, it would be like, I'm sorry about this. You guys are only the second people we've made this interview with, so we haven't worked out ability. See if I can get on your end. Mute seems to be, my mute keeps coming on and off, so I wonder if yours is doing that. If you, at the bottom of the screen, do you guys see a red box that says stop broadcast? Nothing like that? Okay, that's just on my end. That's where the microphone indicator is, so I can see my voice picking up. It might not be showing up on your end. Let me show one other thing here. Well, it's got some kind of hinted sound. Yeah, maybe you guys should call me because I can actually play your voice right next to my microphone. This is probably the way to do it because then we'll just use our phone and I'll record it all from this side. Not picking up. Hey. Oh no, we're still trying to figure this out, so we probably have some kind of weird technical problem. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah. Do you want to do this on speakerphone? Would that work?
Yeah. I think if you guys can hear me, don't put the speaker on your end. Actually put the speaker on your end. I don't think we'll get too much double sound because we're not picking you up at all. Perfect. I might come in as double, so I'm going to speak as low as possible. But I've just got my phone right by my mic, so it's picking you guys up fine now. So thanks for doing this. I don't know. So we've had a system for making these interviews for like 2 years, and it was so technically complicated we couldn't pull it off without Scott Joing's recording studio here in Minneapolis. And this Google On Air actually works pretty well. It seems like we're trying to make something where any editor could interview any author. And then Jeff's going to pick his favorite article every month, and we're going to have the editor interview the person and put it online with the article. We just need something technically that works. So you guys are kind of the beta site, because last time was me interviewing Jeff Klein, which doesn't count as anyone being able to pull it off. But now I'm going to write the directions for authors based on what we do today. And I'll definitely have speakerphone as the backup option, because if we had like a 12-year-old kid here, they'd have this fixed for us. And I should have brought I got a 7th grade son. He'd be like, he's at computer camp actually. He'd have this fixed for us. It's exactly what we need. All right, well, let's get going. Did those questions sound okay? We can keep this pretty general. We want to keep it down to like 5 minutes. Cool. Nick Mohr. And what's your name again? I'm sorry. Morgan. And what's your last name?
Bobb. B-O-B.
Awesome. I'm just spacing everything out, and everything's 10 feet away. So I'll stay where I am, so I don't have to. Well, we'll get started if it's all right with you then.
Yeah, can you hear us okay through the phone?
Oh yeah, I can hear you fine. The connection's not great for this system. That's the only problem. But I think people are used to watching that. Like, all the senior editors were like, well, it's not great. It's not awesome. Before we're using FaceTime and then capturing the video, which is much higher quality. But this is just so much easier. And we could do it with 2 people with phones,
Yeah.
if we wanted to. Anyway, so I'll do a quick intro. You guys do most of the talking. I'm really just going to ask a very general, how'd you come up with this? How did it go? Do you think this is going to work for large trials or for individual investigators? I think that's why this stuck out for 2 things. One is that, for these big like stroke nets and everything that's in the in that Siren grant, this is the perfect way to consent with multi-site spokes, but also for the individual investigator who has the trial that enrolls once a week, can they do this from home and not have to come running in every time they miss the patient, you know? So or make all 30 of their partners co-investigators, I guess would be the, I'm sure you've been there. Anyway, that's why everyone was so excited about your cool research. All right, so we'll get started. I'm just gonna break for 1 sec so Scott can, Scott's still our editor. Hi, it's Jim Miner. I'm interviewing Dr. Nick Mohr and Morgan Bobb about their editor-in-chief pick of the month for July paper on telemedicine. Thanks and welcome.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about how this is such a creative concept for how to do research. It's obvious you put this on to another trial you were doing. How'd you come up with this concept?
That's a great question. So our interest is in rural sepsis care and regionalization of emergency care. So in a number of the studies that we've done where we try to enroll patients in rural hospitals, it's challenging to do that if we can't have a conversation with patients individually. So the impetus behind starting this was that it gave us a way of enrolling patients who are in other hospitals in our regionalization studies. So since then, I think that a number of people have thought about this and how we can use this even within our own center to enroll patients in studies. But originally, this was going to be for rural regionalization studies.
Sure. How did the mechanism work? You were doing this on another trial, but it sounds you did a test to see how people comprehended the consent. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So the test that we used was validated instruments to measure consent comprehension, and that's an instrument that has been used previously in cancer clinical trials. But we were applying it really just to see if people could understand the consent process using telemedicine. So we had an investigator within our own institution that was enrolling patients in a randomized clinical trial within our own institution. And then we randomized patients prior to the consent process occurring at all to either being a telemedicine-enabled consent or a face-to-face consent. And the idea was that then we would compare comprehension between those two groups to validate that if we were applying a consent process through a telemedicine medium, that the consent comprehension was equivalent, or at least non-inferior in patients who were getting the telemedicine consent versus the face.
Well, do you think it missed anything, or do you think it really was a pretty good measure? Like, do you feel like after having seen it, the people were consented the same?
So the survey tool that we use, the quick survey, measures two things. It measures subjective understanding and objective understanding of consent. And so we think that overall, it was a pretty good assessment of patients' consent of the research study. But there was one thing that we found that was quite interesting, that the consent rates among the patients, whether they were enrolled face-to-face or over the telemedicine link, was different. Not statistically significant, but different. It was a difference between 56% and 69% for the consent rates, with the lower ones being the ones that were over telemedicine. So maybe there's something that wasn't captured. But as far as just the basic understanding of consent of the study, we think that it did a pretty good job of consent.
Yeah, the instrument itself was validated for cancer clinical trials. So it's possible that there are elements of emergency medicine clinical trials or resuscitation trials that are different from cancer clinical trials. But the elements of consent are really were really chosen to be broad. The elements that were tested were whether a patient understood that consenting to a research study wasn't consenting for clinical care. It was trying to understand whether the patient still understood the rights that they had. So I think that based on this study, we're very confident that it's safe to consent patients with a telemedicine medium, that participants in clinical trials understand what we're telling them via that medium in the same way that they do when we provide face-to-face consent. I think that they're able and willing to ask questions, and they get answers to their questions in a similar way. I think that the question about whether the consent rate is the same as the question that is important to us in deciding how we're going to roll this out into future studies and whether using a telemedicine medium might change the consent rate. There wasn't a statistically significant difference, but clearly we didn't power for that outcome either.
Sure.
And I think in the way that we're planning to to roll this out for our study, it's really not an option for us to provide face-to-face consent in many of these places. And so I think that research participants were willing to go through this telemedicine consent process. People understood what they were consenting to. I think that we're appropriately protecting the human subjects' rights of participants in clinical studies. And so I think it's something that's safe to do, and we have this kind of unanswered question as to how it impacts the consent rate. And to tell you the truth, that could be different based on what the intervention is or what the study is as well.
Sure. And that is what's important. We want to be able to assure ourselves in the IRB when we tell them we're going to do a consent the way you've proposed that it actually works. The rate's a good point, though. After your study, do you think this is going to work for rural sepsis trials? I mean, I know that wasn't what you were studying in, but do you think you've achieved your goal?
Yeah, I think we have, because I think, number one, our big concern was if somebody's sitting in another hospital and somebody comes on a telemedicine link, can people even understand what this idea of research consent is? And I think that the answer to that question is, yeah, people understand that. Number two, will the quality of consent be non-inferior? And I think that the answer to that question is, yeah, the quality is non-inferior. So when it comes down to questions of how many patients can we enroll that way, what are the consent rates, those are probably study specific. But I think that in being able to roll this out and use it in enrolling patients in our studies, I think that this is something that's ready to go for us.
This is a really cool thing you've done. I mean, for most readers of academic emergency medicine, we're researchers, and we can really see the strength of what you've done for network research and for getting out to rural communities, and also for just individual investigators. One question that's still sitting with me: who was with the person when they were getting consented? Like, what did you have with the person?
So we used a tablet with the patient for our telemedicine linkage. And what would happen is we would have someone come in and give the patient a tablet and say, we have someone on the line here who's going to be talking to you about, first of all, telemedicine, your clinical care as a separate outside of the study, and then for the study, come on and talk over the tablet. And I think we had that connection going beforehand, and then it would either be a nurse or one of our co-investigators that was working independent that would come in. It would not be the same person that was on the telemedicine link. So the patients weren't aware, or the participants weren't aware when they were doing that telemedicine connection that it was happening with the patient.
Sure.
So because this is a teaching institution, we thought that it was really important in the way that we would roll this out in the future, that some clinical care would be delivered using the same link as what was being used for research.
Sure.
So we had the physician who was staffing the case, the faculty physician who was staffing the case, was on the telemedicine link first. So the resident oftentimes would go in and see the patient and would say, we're conducting this study, and so my staff is going to be on the telemedicine link. And then a nurse would bring in the tablet so the patient would see that person. So the initial contact didn't really have anything to do with the study team at that time.
Sure.
The physician who was seeing the patient would take a history, confirm parts of the history that they'd gotten in staffing from the resident, and then would talk with the patient on things for clinical care. And then after that would say, we also have another member of our team who's conducting a research study. Would you be willing to talk with them about that? And then we had the same person, it was Morgan, who did all the face-to-face consent, also the telemedicine consent in the same way.
Sure.
So the research would be, the research interaction would occur at that time. And then later, during the course of the visit, the faculty physician who had seen a patient by telemedicine would then go in for a face-to-face encounter to finish the physical exam and whatever else needed to be done for the care. But a few of the things that we were looking for was, number one, our patients concerned about consenting to a study using the same medium by which they're getting their care. Because that's a really important piece if we're adding this to a rural telemedicine network where some of the care is being provided through the same medium that we would be conducting clinical research. And number two, do we have the capacity through the telemedicine medium to evaluate whether patients can consent?
Sure.
And we felt like that was something that was really very straightforward to do and something that we could see.
Sure. Just some more mundane questions. What kind of software and hardware are you using to do the communication?
So software we use video app, and that is kind of a more secure form of what we're using,
Sure.
we're using today with the video conferencing. Hardware-wise, we had one desktop computer where the physician would sit, and then I would sit later for the research project, and then the patient had a commercially available tablet. Apple iPad.
Sure. So pretty simple stuff.
It was pretty simple stuff. The platform is used for telemedicine communication, so it's secure in the same way as a lot of the kind of physical science software is. But it was simple in that there was essentially one button on the tablet that said, this is call, and once that was set up, we set that up for the patient. When our nurse or pharmacist handed the tablet to the patient, there was no other interaction other than kind of holding the thing and looking into it. That was required from the patient. And then we, for each of those interactions, left a consent document in the room on the table so that once the conversation had occurred, which is clearly the most important part of it, once consent, and any questions were answered, then we could say there is a document sitting on the table with a pen. Feel free to look through, read that, ask us any additional questions that you have, and then then your signature would indicate consent to participate in the trial. And then the rest of the trial after that, the randomization, the application of the study intervention was done after the telemedicine link was complete.
Cool. Well, thanks a lot for talking to me, and congratulations on your study. It's so cool to see, such really a simple question, but such an important question answered. This is really, really great research you've done. This is really cool.
Well, thank you so much for having us, Jim. I think this was an important project for what we study. And I think that we hope that other investigators around the country can use that findings too.
Oh, for sure. Well, good luck with your future research, and we're all looking forward to what comes next.
Great. Thanks, Jim.
Thanks. All right. Well, I think we've got a pretty good recording here. I'll take a look at it and try to edit it down, and I'll send it to you before we publish it. There'll be a couple, I could already see we have a couple lags and stuff, but I think they can pick up most of what we're saying. As long as my voice doesn't sound double with the phone, I think we're okay though.
Yeah, we were having trouble with the technical connection.
Yeah.
I was looking at this, I thought, I hope that this works.
I was thinking about this as we're doing the first time. I'm like, wow, we've got some experts in telemedicine as they're trying to say that this works for everybody, but it's all right. You guys are definitely the right people to roll it out with, We'll go to a social media paper next, just to keep ourselves safe. Awesome. Well, good talking to you. I'm sure I'll see you around.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Yeah, thanks a lot.